Sustainability, Strategy, and Advocacy Lead at Sealed Air, Ms. Myra Foster. Let's give a huge round of applause to Ms. Foster.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Rodrigo, for the introduction. I must say it is a great pleasure and an honor to be here this afternoon to see all of your wonderful faces and to talk about Sealed Air's vision for a waste-free future. I'm sure I don't have to mention this to any of you if you've seen the local news, but we're living under a time where there's a lot of change going on in our environment. Whether it's the fires burning in California, whether it's severe droughts in India, record hurricane winds across the southeast, or typhoons in Asia Pacific, we're living in some very interesting times. Additionally, we know that we live in a world where 1 in 9 people is undernourished, and 820 million people around the world go to bed hungry every night. Now, certainly through no fault of anyone sitting in this room, but it is the challenge that's before us, and it is indeed a global challenge that Sealed Air is prepared to address. In just 11 short years, there will be more than 8.5 billion people living on this planet. And by the year 2050, it's estimated that will be between 9 and 10 billion people that have to be fed. So how are we going to do this? Because here's the challenge. Nearly 1/3 of all food produced in the world today is lost. That's more than 1 billion tons of food between the farm and the fork. And we also know that with this increase in emphasis on climate change and some of the issues that we're dealing with, that the expectation is that the productivity of farms has to increase by 50% just in those short 11 years to be able to feed those 8.5 billion people that will be on the planet. So the challenge for all of us that are somehow connected to the global food supply chain is to understand, how do we find the right balance between the need to feed a growing population and the finite resources that we have available to us? So Sealed Air as a company is looking to do this in 3 ways that I'll talk about briefly during my discussion today. We're looking at how do we come up with innovative technologies to help mitigate product loss in the food supply chain. We're also looking at how do we develop and commercialize new-to-market solutions that are thin, lightweight, but use the least amount of plastic possible. And lastly, how do we make sure that the solutions that we're bringing to market are truly circular, much more sustainable than the solutions that we're replacing on the market? So food loss by definition is any loss in quality or quantity of food before it even makes it to a consumer. So that's looking at the very beginning of that global food supply chain. That's looking at harvesting, production, processing, and distribution. And as I mentioned earlier, we lose about 1 billion tons of food a year just in the early stages of that process. Sealed Air partners with global food processors around the world to look at systems and solutions to help mitigate loss in the production environment. So the simulation you see here is one that we often do for our customers, where we look at their packaging equipment, we look at the flow of product through that equipment, we look at how it's packaged, we look at the labor, and we help come up with ways to make sure that as much of that product that comes in the door goes right out the door in a successful package. One of the newer technologies that we've introduced to our customers is a qualitative assessment tool that helps them to essentially determine whether or not they've got a good package or a bad package. And the reason why that's important is you don't want to put all of that effort into something, send it out the door, and then it's not a good package. It leaks before it makes it to its destination. But by giving our customers real-time access to this tool, they're able to make a determination between a good package and a bad package before it ever goes into a box or goes on a truck and makes it to a store and an end consumer. But we've also got to think about further down in the value chain. So once it gets to the store or the restaurant or to you, the consumer, how do we reduce food waste? That 1 billion tons of food that I talked about that gets lost or waste every year, it generates 8% of the global greenhouse gas emissions. That's a pretty significant impact on the climate, just related to food that gets lost or wasted. So what are we doing about that? Well, our packaging technologies are the way that we've decided to leverage what we have in our assets to mitigate food waste. If you get the opportunity to go by and see the Cryovac booth, you'll see a wide range of our packaging solutions, whether it's our vacuum skin packaging like Darfresh on Tray that you see on the screen, whether or not it's our new Plantic technology made from high amylose starch from corn grown in the great state of Iowa, whether it's our barrier bags that have helped to revolutionize the boxed beef industry. We understand the importance of making sure that all of the energy that's put into producing, harvesting, and packaging that product never gets lost because of packaging. And why is that important? Again, when you look at the carbon footprint, it typically takes 10 times the resources to make the food compared to the resources needed to produce the packaging. Essential food packaging is the most significant way to mitigate food waste and to preserve the land, the water, the energy, and the fuel used to move food around the world. Lastly, let's talk about the elephant in the room, plastic. I've had several of you come by the booth and say, well, your company makes plastic. If any of you saw the cover of National Geographic magazine back in August, you saw this whole iceberg of plastic. You may have even heard the conversations that by the year 2050, by weight, there will be more plastic than fish in the ocean. That's not sustainable. And Sealed Air certainly doesn't want to be a part of the problem. We want to be a part of the solution. So when we start thinking about how do we need to do that, we had to rethink about how we put products into the market. Instead of this notion of what we call a linear economy, where you take it, you make it, and then you throw it away, or to some extent the economy that's in place for rigid containers like water bottles and jugs and jars. You take it, you make it, you recycle it. Well, for flexible packaging, that infrastructure just doesn't exist. So we had to be mindful about thinking about things in a way that's called the circular economy. And that's the notion of taking materials, using them, collecting them, sorting them, reprocessing them, and turning them into new materials. So for that reason, in October of last year, Sealed Air made the very bold pledge of saying that by the year 2025, everything we make will either be reusable or recyclable. And additionally, it will have on average 50% recycled content. So that means that we're going to take our own waste from our own manufacturing environments and turn it back into our materials so that they can be reused or recycled. But we know we can't do it alone. But there's a part of that circularity that kind of reminds me of the FFA creed. The part that says that you promise to deliver better days through better ways. We've got to do things better. We have to do things different. If we want to be a sustainable company bringing sustainable solutions for the greater good of the environment, we have to be at the forefront of doing this. So when we talk about what circularity looks like for plastic, it's no different than what it would look like for a water bottle. You collect it, you send it to a material recovery facility, they separate it, and then they turn it into new products. If you happen to go by our booth, you'll see that there are a number of our solutions that are recyclable today. We don't just make plastic, but we do make solutions that are made from paper, like our Temp Guard liner that's used in e-commerce. You can put it right in your blue or green bin for curbside recycle, and it will get picked up and recycled. Our newest innovation of bubble wrap, Sealed Air is the inventor of bubble wrap, actually contains more than 90% recycled content, and it's approved for store drop-off. That's innovation. That's something we're proud of, is making this a solution for the circular economy. But the vast majority of what we do is much more complicated than our plastic solutions for curb drop-off or our paper solutions for curbside recycling. We make highly engineered, complicated materials that are critical to ensuring the shelf life of perishable foods. So we recognized early on that we have to do things a little bit differently. And so we're looking at advanced recycling technologies that can actually take our plastic materials and convert them back to the raw polymers that were used in the first place to produce that material. We've got a long way to go, but we're well on our journey to doing that. So as I come to a close, I'd like to share a short video with you where a group of students from FFA chapters in South Carolina and North Carolina came to visit our global headquarters in North Carolina. And I'd like for you to take just a moment to come and see what Sealed Air is all about on our journey to a waste-free future.
The experience today at the Sealed Air Career Day has been exciting, to say the least. It has just been very eye-opening.
It's extremely relevant to all of the students that are able to participate here today. Just like FFA and agricultural education, the many different facets of career in food processing and packaging.
There's a lot of common themes that we both do in terms of fighting food waste and hunger, and that was the common theme that brought us together. But now we just want to show them what we do and how we go about doing that, and how a future that they could have here in North Carolina in agriculture that's not necessarily in straight production agriculture.
Going up to 2050, we've all heard that we're going to have 9 billion people to feed, and so with that comes innovation of our packaging. We have the food, we know how to process that, we know how to feed the person, but we need to know how to keep that on the shelves long enough so we can feed them.
We spoke in one section to the chemical engineers who developed taking chemical compounds and developed them into the plastic film that's sealed and covers the food products, and things that they work to are just making a linear tear more easy for the consumer, and it's such a minor detail, but it's little details that coming into something like this I never would have thought about, but getting to see things like this through today's opportunities at Sea Career Day have shown me some cool new things I've learned.
Today we've really enjoyed our time at Sealed Air. We've allowed our students to see a lot of different aspects of the agriculture careers that they may have in front of them that we may not be able to show them at the high school level.
With opportunities like this, it helps students develop an idea of maybe what career paths, not only what are available, but things that they might want to pursue. Helps give them more clarity in the options available, and it just makes the process of pursuing a career easier and more valuable.
As an FFA member, we are wanting to take agriculture to the next level, and you as a company, that you see that vision that we see and that we have. I say bring your students so they can learn about what's surrounding that food, so then we can take it to the next level to feed the future generations.
Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your convention.
Myra, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us here today. I'm sure many of us were fascinated to hear about such a crucial aspect of how we'll feed the world and learning about that circular economy that'll end up being the thing that could very well save us. As a gift, we actually have a cutting board that was made for you, custom by an FFA member. His name is Coy Krull, and he's from the Mount Carmel FFA chapter.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Again, my pleasure.
And let's get one more big round of applause.